In our top story at this hour, the Reserve Bank has responded to the Public Protector's remedial action, directing Parliament to effect a constitutional amendment. The bank has called the move unlawful and outside of the ambit of the Public Protector's powers. In a statement on the matter, the South African Reserve Bank indicated it would take remedial action on review. The Public Protector wants the Reserve Bank's primary objective to change from protecting the rand's value to ensuring citizens' socio-economic well-being. Now, this comes after the Public Protector said that the Special Investigating Unit must recover over R1 billion from Absa Bank. The finding follows a Public Protector probe informed by the CIEX report. The remedial action is seen as a vindication for groups that have been calling for Absa to repay the money. In a statement, the South African Reserve Bank said, and I quote, "This had an immediate and negative impact on the markets and the exchange rate of the rand. The amendment would, if effected, strip the Reserve Bank of its key competency to protect the value of the currency. The remedial action proposed will have a negative impact on the independence of the Reserve Bank. The remedial action prescribed by the Public Protector falls outside of her powers and is unlawful. The Reserve Bank has been advised to bring urgent review proceedings to have the remedial action set aside." The Public Protector's report on South African Reserve Bank gives rise to several key questions. First, has the South African Reserve Bank's credibility taken a hit given its failure to recover the loan from Absa? And can SARB possibly argue that socio-economic welfare of South Africa's citizens is not its responsibility? Now, in the wake of Public Protector's Absa report, COSATU has called for the nationalization of the Reserve Bank.
We need a much more broader and comprehensive investigation because we believe that the South African capitalist state was already captured from the beginning. What is threatening for us is that this issue from the Public Protector was actually ignored by the people and the leaders who were supposed to intervene not just on behalf of the country but on behalf of the poor majority. The issue of the Reserve Bank, we've long said that that bank shouldn't have been private. We shouldn't have allowed that bank to be independent in the first place. Now it's about time to really nationalize this bank and make sure that it acts in the interest of broader South African people.
Now, while some groups have been vocal in demands for Absa to pay back the bailout money, there seems to be a conspiracy of silence from others. The Black First, Land First and the ANC Youth League have staged several protests at Absa branches. However, there has been little to no comment from quarters like the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters and key former ministers. These circles have waged a continual war against President Jacob Zuma and even the Gupta business family, but they seem mute when it comes to white monopoly capital wrongdoings. Now let's take a look at some key players that have been largely silent following the Public Protector's finding against Absa. First, the Economic Freedom Fighters leader, Julius Malema, had promised to shut down Absa. Democratic Alliance leader Mmusi Maimane has instead been fighting cases against Brian Molefe and President Jacob Zuma. And similarly, Helen Suzman Foundation went all out to have frivolous corruption charges reinstated against Zuma. Public interest group Freedom Under Law takes on SASSA in court and urges South Africans to rethink the ICC withdrawal. Ahmed Kathrada Foundation calls for Guptagate inquiry and marches against Zuma, yet also seem mum on Absa corruption.
The state must immediately withdraw all its accounts with Absa, and these monies, which are lots of monies, can then be used to support the emergence of a black bank and a state bank, which will then be able to support our communities and our people as we take the minerals back to our people. The hegemony of Johan Rupert in the banking sector must end.
The likes of Rupert, who is now the face of white monopoly capital, will be silenced because they accumulated their wealth through squandering government resources to the tune of billions. What we see now is just a tip of an iceberg. We are talking about almost about 1 point something billion, which is just a tip of an iceberg. There is about more than 200 billion that went missing. And that 200 billion was the basis that made sure that all the champions of apartheid continue to live cushy lives. When Trevor Manuel came in, he protected the system. We've been saying that as the ANC Youth League. that Trevor Manuel is an agent of capital. It is not surprising that his wife is now employed by Absa as the CEO. What was he supposed to do? Because they were even involved even when he was still there as a minister of finance. So this is something that was planned by the likes of Trevor Manuel. They knew about this. They wanted to protect it. The issue now is that the ANC must be bold. It must remember that, yes, we make tactical maneuvers building up to 1994, but now we must get out of those contracts. And getting out of those contracts starts by us taking action against Absa, action that is meaningful. We're not surprised. The DA is quiet on this issue, which means the DA is selective on reports that come. All those who support capital and big companies in South Africa are absolutely quiet.
This is the biggest crime against South Africans. It's not just the mere numbers of billions, 1 million. These affect everybody. The students who could not go to school, the townships that are built, the lives that black people live every day. This desperations that we find ourselves in is because of the crimes that have been committed against us. The biggest Holocaust of all time against the black South Africans. And yet you have quietness. You have people who don't want to talk about this. This is by any other mathematical calculations the biggest crime against humanity.
I think what this indicates is the level of capture of this government by white monopoly capital. The government is in a very invidious position. If it moves in a way that Tsepo is suggesting, the strings are going to be pulled. You must remember that, you look at an example. Here's an example. We appoint a Minister of Finance. Where does he go first thing? To go and say nothing is going to change. London, he goes to London and all these places. He goes to the US and so on to say, oh, nothing is going to change. That shows the level of capture, the level of being manipulated by the rating agencies and all the people that we owe money to.
Despite the evidence that is there, despite the fact that many others, patriotic South Africans, have written at length and risked their own lives in exposing this colossal corruption, we seem to be completely doing nothing about it. And it's not just Absa, by the way. We know a few years ago, FNB owned, First National Bank owned a private bank, Ansbacher, that illicitly moved 2.8 billion rand of private people offshore, and they were never prosecuted. And today they are the very same executives that can stand up and tell us that, they are the paragon of all things acceptable.